So thank you for this first edition. It's a try that we make to have these coffees regularly. So I start by sharing my screen and then doing a quick presentation. Can you confirm to me? I'm not seeing you anymore. I'm in the dark. Can you confirm to me that you are seeing my slides?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. So hi everyone, thanks you again for your participation. I'm Alex. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer of Startin'blox, and I'll present quickly what we do and how we try to meet business with data spaces. So as a quick introduction, so sharing data could be a source of business. I think if you're here, you are convinced, or we share this common belief that sharing data can create value. I give two examples to illustrate it. If my offers are visible to a wider range of partners, then it increases my chances to sell. So that's one way. Data space could boost my business. If I have unused data in my database, something that I don't do anything with, but it has value to other players out there, and they access it and are ready to pay for it, or I get some form of compensation for sharing it with them, that's another way for me to benefit from participating in the data space. But too often we lose ourselves in technical discussions. I understand why, but the very reason why we create data spaces and we think we should share data is because we think it could create value. And so we strive at Startin'blox to kind of keep the compass on that, on creating value. And I'll dive a bit more about what it means for us. So a very quick word about us. You can think of us as a consulting company. We help to shape and create data spaces. But first and foremost, we are a tech company. And especially we have built an open source product that we call the Data Space browser, which I will demo in a minute. We are active in several projects outside of the data space ecosystem, but as far as data spaces are concerned, we are active in 4 different projects. One is TEMS. It's a European media data space, which we are about to connect with the skills data space in the context of an AI project. And we are also active in democracy and a project in the ag sector in the US too, regarding carbon and the beef industry. So we have developed 2 methodologies, consulting methodologies, to help data spaces stay focused on their business objectives. One that we call incubation, and the second one we call, let's say, expansion. They are not directed to the same public. So the first methodology, incubation, is directed to people creating a data space. And again, data spaces exist because they are expected to create value. And so this whole methodology is designed to make that happen and focus on that front, because we believe as technicians that tech will follow. Tech is never the blocking factor. So the first part of this methodology, and here I'm sorry, I would have liked to rework that slide, but I was sick for 5 days and I lacked time, but I'll do it orally. The visual will be a bit static for a moment. But the first phase of the incubation methodology, so how we help a data space gets started, let's say, is that we map out, we do a stage that we call the state-of-the-art mapping, where we basically look around at what already exists. Like, we want to build a data space that's cool, but what's already existing, and where does the opportunity lie? What can we do better that's already out there in the market? And once we know that, we need to design a strategy on not just what we'll do, but how we will deploy it. Because when you create a data space, whether you want it or like it, you end up being an entrepreneur. You end up having to push a new offer that was not existing out there. And you're a very specific kind of entrepreneur. You are creating a platform. You are creating a business model that is connecting different parties, different stakeholders, or facilitating exchanges between different kinds of stakeholders. And so there are ways to build platforms. There are methodologies. It's not, you cannot improvise building a platform. Or, I mean, you can, but you would have to be very lucky to be successful. Platform exists for about 20 years. And so there is 20 years of history about what works, what doesn't, and there are methodologies to build that. And so once you have mapped out what exists out there and identify what you're going to add to what's already existing, then you need to take that into consideration. Who are going to offer stuff on your platform? Who are going to buy stuff on your platform? And how you're going to conquer those 2 or maybe sometimes 3 or 4 sides of your market, and how you're going to make money with it. What's your business model? So in that phase, we try to cover all this. It's a mouthful. It's a lot of work, but it gives us a plan, to a solid basis, let's say, for where we can start building the data space. And it includes a lot of interviews with different market players to really understand what's happening. And the deliverable is a blueprint that is acting then as a compass that we use to kind of as a business plan of the entire project. We can refer to when we are unsure if we are meeting our objective or not, or in which direction we should go. Once we have produced that document, we prototype things. So we start drawing how it could materialize. So we mean which interfaces we could show. And again, data spaces are a multi-sided thing, like any platform. So you have to take that into consideration when we mean prototyping. It's prototyping for which public, and quickly, the idea here is to have something where we can quickly show to the different sides of the platform, so that we make sure that it meets people's ambition, and that the plan we have to acquire, like there is a chicken and egg problem in a data space, like in any platform. And so the idea is to not only validate that the screens that we're showing meet people's objective, but also that the way we have thought we would acquire them on the platform makes sense. And this we grasp in the discussions that we have with them. Here is a kind of prototype that we come up with at this stage. So I just wanted to illustrate it. We set up the rule book. I'll pass quickly here because it's not a stage where we bring anything special. The idea here is to, let's say, implement the strategy that we have implemented, and the governance rules, like set up the governance rules that everybody will have to follow to be able to build trust between the different members of a data space, as well as agreeing on a set of technical standards so that we can technically exchange data at some point. The technique has to take shape, and this is where it starts. And last, and it's important phase for us, we need to trial the data space. So we need to go out there and show something to people. And we have designed a tool for that I'm going to demo now, that we call the Data Space browser, where we can quickly go from the prototyping to an interface that people can interact with, put their data into, and we can start seeing if we get engagement, if our acquisition strategy works, etc., etc. So let me switch screen so that I can show you the browser if I find it. Yes, this is good. Boom. So here you can see demonstrators that we've built for the different trials of so you can think of trials as use cases. So for the different use cases of the TEMS project, of the European Media Data Space, I show you one, for example. So we work with journalists in the context of TEMS. One thing they strive to achieve is to be able to filter out fake news. And the way they came up with to do that is to be able to crowdsource fact-checking reports for two reasons. One is filtering the fake from the truth, let's say. So they can index and easily access the different fact-checking reports that the different trustworthy news agency produce, and according to the rights that I have when I try to access data from the data space, then I can access a certain amount or none or all the fact-checking reports. And another one is business. They can resell fact-checking reports they have produced to other news agencies so that they can republish it in their own name. So one part is they use it to filter good and bad news, and another one is they hope to increase their revenue for it. I show you another kind of interface that is in the making. And the idea here is to crowdsource audience data between different media organizations, so that I can have data about this aggregated audience and have a better sense myself as a journalist or as a content producer in that media organization, what I should write about, what interests people based on the audience data of our aggregated organizations. And so it tracks the complexity of having to log users coming from different systems on a common interface, having data coming maybe in different formats in an interface, and being able to read data sharing contracts that we agreed on to give or not access to a given user to a given piece of data. And it also goes beyond just sharing data sets, but it enables me as an end user to really browse the data itself and to do something smart for my business based on that data, and not just manipulating bunch of data. So that's it for the demo. I just wanted to show you that. Oops, sorry. Sorry, I just struggled to. switch back. Are you guys seeing back my slide? I'm sorry, I don't have the certainty of that.
Yes.
Yes, cool. Thank you. And so I wrap up. So that's the proof of concept part, and that's a bit where we wrap up our methodology to help create a data space. And we have a similar methodology for an organization willing to join the data space, where we go through similar phases. So I go quickly through it, but we go and meet them, analyze their business needs, and define a strategy. So you want to build a data space, either you're just a participant in the platform of somebody else, or you want to create your own platform within that data space. And so we try to identify this with them, and based on their answers, we accompany them into different steps, or either we match them with something that already exists, or we give them up to speed about what it means to actually be proposing a service in the data space, and what you have to think about in order to meet your target. What does it mean in terms of business? And we try to have orders of magnitude about how much you need to invest, how much you can hope to have in terms of return on investment, and what KPIs can you put on the table to be able to track if you're doing good or not. And then we prototype and we implement a proof of concept so that we can test it. So that's all for us. Thank you to have listened to me. If you have any reaction, feel very free to share them. And if not, I would kind of open the mic to others to have an open discussion on how do you guys ensure that you meet your business objectives in your data space. Thank you. Does anybody has a question or reaction? And does anybody wants to share a challenge or a strategy, a solution that they face in terms of having their data space meet its business objectives or be sustainable, or a solution you have implemented and you want to share with the rest of the group? Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe. So thank you for the invitation and presentation. And it's nice to have this kind of a cafe to discuss, or coffee, virtual one. Yeah, so you mentioned the project we are building together on democracy. So we are just starting. We, I guess, are the step where we are drafting the blueprint, and then quickly moving to the first prototypes. And maybe my interest and question would be, because in our case, we have received some funding from a client and a sponsor, let's say, but it's still a small amount of money compared to what we would like to develop and build. So I would be interested in knowing how it is working with your other projects, and maybe the projects of other participants in this call. Where does the money come from? What are the, is it mostly private, public, grants? already return on investment because you
C'est comme le chat.
have something.
Elle te suit partout.
So yeah, that was my question.
C'était quoi là?
Olivier, tu veux répondre?
Sorry, I cannot talk now.
I tried. Kelly, do you wanna answer Valentine in terms of I do not know you. I don't know in which data space you're involved, but do you wanna respond to the question, how are you guys funded, and how do you ensure financial stability? I think financial sustainability beyond the first stages of a project. I think that was Valentine's request.
Yeah, so I'm in TEMS as well. I'm from Sound and Vision, so I think similar questions to you about the financial sustainability. But maybe also interestingly, we're also part of Europeana as a cultural heritage institution. And then I think the financial sustainability question is a very different one, since a lot of the core missions of cultural heritage institutions is to provide open access to our collections. So the sustainability question, has a different layer to it. It doesn't necessarily answer your question, Valentine, but for us, we are also constantly thinking about how this financial sustainability looks quite different between data spaces.
Does anybody want to explain their own case? Okay. Otherwise, I can tell what I'm seeing, and what I'm seeing, Valentin, is that in every initiative, sustainability is a bit of a challenge, and often because we do not take the business angle from the get-go. So usually, as you say, there is a first grant initially, and we wake up too late to realize that, we've consumed the grant, and now what's next? That's something we are doing different now in the projects that are starting now. And for instance, it's in this carbon monitoring project in the US that is just starting now. We spent 100% of our time from the very first second on what's the business model that would enable this to scale, and we are completely focused on that. We almost ignore everything else. And it's creating a lot of engagement from partners because they understand, this could bring value to us. And so so I understand you're in democracy. It's a bit what Kelly said. I think it's comparable in terms of it's not a purely commercial sector. So I think it's a bit harder to monetize. But to in a nutshell, I would say, to answer your question, I think it's a challenge for everybody. And I think the sooner we put business needs and strategy on the table, the better. And this thing of thinking of a data space as a multi-sided platform, like any platform, and rely on the methodologies that already exist to make platforms successful. How do we acquire producers of the platform? How do we acquire consumers? How do we avoid the chicken and egg problem, etc., are what makes it a success and able to go through the next stages of funding, let's say, like any project. But there is also a reality that the ecosystem is still a bit young, and so there is a lot of experimentation going on and not a lot of insight about what has worked and what hasn't. So all of this is still being tried out. Go ahead, Olivier.
Yes, thanks. Just to complete what you said. So for those who don't know me, I work on different data spaces, such as the legal data space and the AONX on mobility and tourism. And I actually a few months ago did a benchmark of existing data spaces. We will publish the results very soon, maybe this fall. We identified 100 data space initiatives all over Europe. And some of the conclusions are that exactly what you said, Alex, about public funding. It's like 98% of the project. So it relies heavily, partially or entirely on public funding. Those funds will end by 27 or 28. So we are running out of time. And at the moment, there are two opposing debates in the community. One about the Data Governance Act and neutrality, because it brings trust in the ecosystem and so on. And the other is what you just said about multi-sided platforms and how to bootstrap a market. I don't have the clear answer about this, but I suppose that we need to work more on how to bootstrap a multi-sided platform and to work more on the marketplace aspect of things in data spaces. Maybe to counterbalance this in the next few years, but I believe that at this stage, where we are missing out is the marketplace aspects of things. We are not doing this. All of us, we are not doing this very well. Maybe because we've got too much public funding. I don't know. That's the first takeaway of the benchmark, and the other takeaway would be that regarding products, the products that help a data space to function, if you put them into the category of data collaboration, such as Snowflakes, Databricks, and so on, then we are talking about very expensive and complex products. And none of us have the equivalent of the funding of a Databricks, a startup like Databricks or Snowflakes. So it is, I suppose it is way more complex and expensive that we had than what we had in mind. And we are not there yet. We just have a few features available all over Europe, but it's not enough.
Who would you say is the most promising project that you've seen? You've studied 100. Who would you say is the most promising project doing this work of sustainability, in the sustainability sense of the term, and why? What are they doing different?
Frankly, it is very hard to answer, mostly because we are talking about projects that are publicly funded, either 3 years or 5 years projects, and they do not show that much before the end of the project. So we will see, I suppose, starting from 2026, but more in 2027, when most projects will reach the end of the public funding. We will see. Maybe I've heard some people in the data spaces talking about the death valley of data spaces when we get to the end of public fundings. But at the same time, maybe some projects will die. But at least they will need to expose. All projects will need to expose what they have. They don't expose that much, either in terms of products technological products or in terms of use cases. So you just have the public presentations of the 4 use cases we want to push in our data space, but you don't see much today. You've got a few very interesting projects where they move faster. Like in France, we've got Prometheus X and Eona X. You've got in Germany, of course, Catenex, but Catenex is to me it's out of competition. The funding is so much bigger than others. You cannot take Catenex as a reference for all other projects. But that's pretty much all I see that is more forward and advanced. And I'm thinking, yes, that's pretty much it. You've got also Delta DAO and in Germany and some blockchain projects. But that's pretty much all. The rest is work in progress only.
I think it's good to know, and it's great you have done that work of studying the entire panorama. What would you say, Valentin, is the most promising sustainability path, let's say, for you? What are you seeing?
Well, so maybe the situation with our data space project is that we did first had to understand who the customers will be, because obviously we are working on participatory projects and platforms where the final user is the citizen, but they do not pay for that. They are offered this opportunity by their public institutions or maybe their company or to take part in the discussion and the decision-making process. So the customer, the client, is often an institution, and we have at the very beginning seen one use case where an institution might be a client for interoperability. And data space, it's in the situation where you are in a local area, you have usually, or at least in France, I don't know how it translates in other cities and countries, but you have a big metropolis area where there is a project, participatory project, but within this area, you also have several smaller districts, municipalities, neighborhoods, and each of them may already have a platform and their processes. So the idea with interoperability is that the institution on top, like the largest possible area, is interested that their own process is also accessible from the different sub-platforms, let's say, of the territory, where usually the citizens live and contribute already. So we had this example with the metropolis of Bordeaux in France, and it's where we try to develop a first pilot to connect basically different platforms where contributions can be made. But actually, this is one use case, and there are several metropolises and several areas of that type, but obviously it's a list that is quite limited still, and we are not sure there will be a need for cross territories participation. So we also discussed the potential for thematic interoperability, like we could have organizations operating at the national level or European level, and they want to have different debates coordinated. And again, yeah, we are not sure yet that they are ready to pay for the development of that, but we see potential interest here. And then the final, let's say, level and potential customer is at the European Union level, for example, where they have to draft and decide policies that will affect the whole continent. It's interesting for them to know, maybe not to have at the same time the same debate everywhere in Europe, but when they start looking for a new policy, they can receive data from all the processes that were organized in different member states, different levels. So in the end, we had decided that we could generate, let's say, a model of a data space, of a territorial data space that can be replicated for real-time discussions and deliberations, just as in Bordeaux. But we could also expand to like asynchronous analysis or analysis of asynchronous processes that are organized at different level, but do not have to be made in real time and completely interoperable. It's more data that should be the same format so that it's easier to make sense of everything and filter the contributions. And so that's interesting. We are not sure, obviously, if, and so our clients, potential clients, first clients are public institutions, so maybe it's not completely grounds and everything. It can be that we are paid for a service, but still it's relying mostly on public funding, in our view, or it could be funded by philanthropy, but we do not see a very intense commercial interest from private actors at the moment to develop and operate such a data space. So that's the reason why I'm asking the question. It's like we are thinking already on what could be the next steps for us.
But I think you are in a specific case where it's hard to monetize democracy. I think you guys are doing a good job at this, actually, as a company. And I think you're doing everything right, meaning that you identify different stakeholders potentially interested, and now it's about banging the drum and see who buys, who joins the initiative. So, I mean, instead of just cheering and telling you to keep up, I think you're doing everything right.
It might still not answer the question on how to make it sustainable in a few months, but
it's a bit of a race against time. That's the hard part. But I have no doubt, in your case specifically, I have no doubt that there is a way. It's just like, will you make it before the end of the funding that you have now? It's an open debate, but I'm sure that like democracy will not cease tomorrow. Go ahead, Esther.
Hi. A question, because at the start of your talk you mentioned like one of the avenues for getting data into the ecosystem is maybe as a company you have some non-crucial data and you would be willing to share those data.
Yes.
And that's like one of the avenues that I know that we in Flanders also thought about a couple of years ago. Like, okay, let's not try to go for the sensitive data or the business sensitive data, but maybe there's some data that you're less sensitive about. I think our experience has been that it's hard to get those kind of projects onto the roadmap of companies, because basically you always have a list of priorities, and if it's not mission critical, then it's going to be lower on the list, and then it's easy to kick the can down the road. So I'm just, as we're having a coffee here, I'm curious about what experiences other people around the table had around what are the drivers to get companies or entities willing to share data and to move it ahead on their roadmap, not to kick the can down the road. Basically, I think in Flanders, what we've noticed is oftentimes it really takes a long time to get the right constellation of parties together and make sure that everyone is okay on the business model, also on the legal side of things. This can usually take like up to 1, 2, 3 years before this entire track is done. And then basically the technical implementation is almost an afterthought, but that really takes a lot of time. And even if you take that time to put together that constellation, then still often the question is, for the first phase, where you only have costs and you don't have revenue yet, can the sector put in the money to get over that hump? But oftentimes, even if it's a sector with private parties, they will often also in Flanders look at the government to ask, hey, would you be willing to, as it were, kickstart this ecosystem? And then maybe we can work with a system that has a payback schedule, where once we start making revenue, then we can pay back, give you a dividend. But they usually also look for an entity to also take that first financial step, like take that roadblock out of the way. Those are some of the experiences in Flanders, but I'm curious to see. Yeah,
it's awesome. It's a shame he couldn't join. He said, okay, Simon, he said he would join and eventually couldn't make it, but I'll connect with him, with him by email. His name is Yves. He's been active in the aviation sector and now in the building sector. And one answer to your question he brings is he says he has successfully done it in the aviation sector, and he is now what he wants to do in a nutshell in the construction sector is reduce energy consumption. And he says you have to put it in the contracts to incentivize people. So either you're able to just show them that, yeah, you in the agriculture sector, the project we do, what we promise farmer is you'll be able to play in the carbon market. So basically you'll be able to sell carbon credits. And so they are in. I can make money. It's pretty direct the way they can make money. So they are interested. And we managed to get funding from foundations to get things started, because farmers are unable to fund the money. That's a no-go. And in this case, in the case of Yves, he's saying so I'm not clear, and he would be able to elaborate better, but he's saying we put it in the contracts, like if you want to do business with us, he said you have to do it that way, and little by little they bring partners in, and the contract forces them to format data in a given way or share data in a given way. That's how they do it. I'll put you in touch by email with him for sure.
Cool. Thank you, Alex.
My pleasure. Do you want maybe Matt to elaborate your questions, or you cannot talk? You can talk.
No, I'm just curious in general how you secure data provenance, because when we are working with these things, if you want to execute smart contracts, you have to be pretty sure what the data comes from, what sensor, what machine. You have to link the real world data into the smart contract world. So I was curious how you operate with these things.
For sure. In passing, I've just recognized you, and I'm happy to see you. And I haven't seen you for some years, so I'm happy to see you. And the way we do that is usually it happens with the technical standard is verifiable credentials, And so a third party that you trust has signed somewhere that Valentin or Hester are who they claim to be, and you benefit from a signature, but there is a third party involved that you trust, and it doesn't mean it has to be the same third party for the entire data space, but there is a third party involved that tell you Valentin is who he is, or his company is who he is, and you can trust data coming from their side. And they have this certification in the context of the ag sector, for instance. An auditor comes and says, yes, I certify, I've looked at the sensors on the ground and I've looked at the data, and I certify that the data is what it is, that it hasn't been cheated, and that they have the amount of carbon that they claim to have in their soil. And they issue a credential with that.
So you have someone auditing or reviewing the data. Someone is doing that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, in that context, yes.
It's a third party that is doing it.
Yes.
All right. But I mean, how do you? I mean, if you were to autonomize these processes, I mean, you have a lot of real-time transactions.
So what is currently being built are models. I think it will end up being like the tax systems. So models will enable you to self-declare, let's say, and say, I'm a farmer in Midwest, I'm growing this and that. So you describe yourself. The model will tell you, well, based on your location, practices, kind of crops, etc., we guess that you have this much in your ground, and we don't check. We just tell you, well, you land in this box. Congrats, you are entitled to this amount of carbon credits, and with the potential to be audited someday. And then if you're not in the boxes, you'll have to pay back or whatever. But right now, at the current stage of a voluntary market, what is happening is you have to go and check.
All right.
What are you up to? What are you working on? Still sensors. I remember it's sensors, but
yeah, well, my colleagues that we are working with, they are working on zero knowledge proof and all this stuff. So I mean, but we are working very much on how do you link real world data into the smart contract world. But even if you're a chain link or someone, they don't know all the way to the actual sensor and to the actual machine. They have no way of proving the provenance in the data. So we are working on how you physically link an asset to, so you also embed that in the data.
Go ahead, Esther.
Yeah, I wasn't planning on talking about this, but Mats, I'm from IMEC. We are like 90% a hardware research company focused on chips, sensors, etc. And then 10% of our business is data spaces, data exchange, etc. Usually those two worlds are very far apart, but with what you mentioned of provenance checking, there is of course that hardware-software link. Like, for example, can you make sure that if you have a sensor that there is metadata attached to the data that tracks the provenance of that data. And then also talking about data spaces, once your data starts moving through a data space, and if there are various intermediaries who are going to aggregate, apply certain algorithms to the data, etc., how do you then track that entire provenance trail or flow and make sure that that information stays with the data as the data travels or the insights travel through that data space? Is that super far evolved research at our side at this moment? No, I think we're still in the early days of doing that. But for everyone in our network, if there's opportunities to collaborate together on a project, always very happy to do so. But that's our our link with our hardware part of our business.
Well, I'm working on some very advanced things, but it's similar. But I mean, I'm working with light emitting particles, so we embed light emitting particles in physical things, so you can actually ping them, so they respond with the code.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not easy to do this. I mean, usually you use QR codes or stuff like that. But you can also use. We are capturing very, very weak electromagnetic fields, and that is a unique signature for a physical object.
And is the idea then to connect that signal to the data, let it travel with the data, or is it more about the physical implementation of being able to verify?
Well, we can secure, and this area is my partner in Canada. He has a patent on securing these things. It's a little bit. I don't know exactly how they do this.
Cool. Mats, I don't know you. I know that Alex knows you, but if you would have a link for some of your
one is playsafe.echo. But Alex and I, we met, I think it was through Ocean Protocol, right?
Exactly, the Ocean Protocol.
Yeah. So I'm still working with them, but
awesome.
But it's also while we're working a lot with data provenance and traceability. That's why I was curious where you were.
And it's definitely one use case. It's not the only use case of data spaces. Data spaces are here to facilitate. They thought of themselves as decentralized data exchanges between partners, and that can mean different things. But certification is one of the use cases. In the ag industry, it's a big thing to be able to prove that you have carbon in your soil, that this was green, this was organic. It's a big thing, and it's a big challenge, not satisfyingly addressed at the moment, like many exploratory projects to figure out how to do that at scale.
When it comes to, if I'm jumping to something else, I mean, the governance, the rule book for these things, do you have any models for this? Because
yes.
Well, when I started working on this, I looked into, I don't know if you heard about Friedrich von Hayek and his ideas of governance and separation of powers. So I was trying to implement Friedrich von Hayek's idea of governance, but it was too advanced for the people I was working with.
Okay. I can refer to sorry. Oh, her name slips my mind. Pauline was here on the call, but she jumps off already. But I can introduce to her. That's really their thing to help projects to deploy their rulebook, and they have models on their own, but they are that they have developed.
I was thinking. I mean, I'm sure you know about Gaia X and what they're working with.
Yeah, but I think what they do is a bit too far from the ground, let's say. So I would refer you to Pauline, but I mean, you can also talk to GaiaX for sure. I'm
in dialogue with them. I mean, so, but it's a lot about sharing data in supply chains, and now we are looking in the semiconductor world.
Yeah, which is also a big topic. If you look at what CATENA-X is, there's like many big projects are about, especially scope 3 emission in the supply chain. It's a big thing in the data space ecosystem. I suggest, like we are at the hour mark, I suggest that we wrap up now, just not to overextend.
Sure.
Thank you guys to have participated, and I wish you a good day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.